The topic of space travel is as real as any fantasy, novel, myth, or any other theoretical story. Notice I didn't call any of these false, but we can all agree that what all of these have in common is that none of them are collectively believed and perceived as pure objective truth. There has always been this fantasy of leaving the planet, whether it be through flying away or through some type of metaphysical process like spirituality. The spirituality side of that belief or curiosity has been passed around and evolved since the beginning of our recorded, acknowledged history. It has been preserved well in myths, allegories, passed down stories, and such. Of course, this type of information sharing is highly subjected to error and corruption. But if one has the fundamentals of these stories, these alterations can be figured out. Masters have come and gone that contributed greatly to these types of knowledge. I'm talking great minds and so-called prophets. Religions are very cultural and dogmatic. They serve multiple purposes that undermine their integrity. I'm talking purposes like culture preservation, government control, resource and economic stability control, sacred dogma, etc. For example, I've learned that the Bible is a collection of other sacred texts and passed down information. I've also learned that the man Jesus himself traveled around the world and learned healing methods from all over the world. However, this isn't well acknowledged in the Bible. It's left out. I think that this would diminish this religion's position in the world if it was. That would make it false, but it would make it have to share its position with its other shared sources. On top of this, civilizations have come and gone all over the world. And we know that the majority of war has been over religion. Religion is a very powerful governing tool because the best way to get cooperation over a huge amount of people is to say that God said it. How can you argue with that? Now, switching gears. About a century or so ago, the first functional airplane came on the scene. In this era, it was the beginning of a huge technological boom. Not only did airplanes show suddenly in this time frame, but also communication, like radio. It exploded in advancements. Wars accelerated these advancements, no doubt, but they were also around for many years prior, just waiting to be put to real-world tests. And, when it's wartime, it's time to put everything to the test. What you've been keeping, hidden for years and years. In the time frame of the Cold War, the U.S. beat Russia to the moon, so they say. But then after such an amazing accomplishment, everyone just gave up, lost interest. Does that make any sense? Russia, the other world superpower at that time, reportedly, they really just gave up and just went to the point of obscurity. They supposedly began focusing on metaphysics and other paranormal phenomena. Isn't it strange? There has been much controversy and confusion about space being extremely dangerous. I'm talking astronauts getting very serious diseases of aging in extremely short amounts of time. There are stories of moon beings and aliens also. I strongly reserve my judgment on these claims of meeting space life such as a so-called moon being. When I say being, I'm talking me and you, us, people, sentient beings. When we talk about beings of other types of so-called subjective perceptions, for example, angels, spirits, and other dimensional entities, Where does the line get drawn? What is what? And what is real? How do you distinguish? I'll leave you with that thought for now. So the planet is huge and largely known and largely unknown and unexplored. Are there other beings here, right on this planet with us? Are there other worlds here, right on Earth? What about ocean worlds or subterranean worlds? Remember the inner Earth story? As wild as these hypotheses may sound, they hold just as much validity, if not more, as space travel and other planetary colonization. Now back to Russia, leaving behind space travel and focusing on metaphysics and other paranormal phenomena. They just totally gave up space, it seems, and they just focused on something that's supposedly make-believe. My question is, how deep is the government's knowledge on the paranormal and non-physical aspects of space and science? Where do esoteric disciplines like astrology come into play? How advanced are the governments and higher institutions' astrological systems? I mean, they all have the best technology and tools to make this type of system work far more accurately than any talented ordinary astrologer that has a great reputation. They are capable of looking into space and mapping super intricately. Now, if you know about astrology, it becomes more precise the more fully you include all of its moving parts, and space is loaded with moving parts. Astrology is based on reincarnation. That's one of the stories tied to it. Is leaving the earth a fantasy ploy to hide the truth? Has our Creator allowed us to live on Earth and live on other planets? Other planets are whole other different energy fields, and they're non-supportive to us and our purposes here on Earth. We're specific for here. What are the spiritual consequences of leaving Earth, or even actually making it to another planet or another moon? I have a lot more to say about this topic, but I think that this so far is a lot to digest. So we will talk about this far more deeply in upcoming videos, and we're going to go in some new, different directions. Bye for now. I love you. You all take it easy and keep your minds wide open.